Welcome to Team 4's presentation of local hires. Baltimore City Council passed the preliminary approval of the law regarding city financial support of city contracts. Although Mayor Stephanie Rawlings Blake appears supportive of the bill, she awaits the final version of the law to see whether she will approve or veto as per the law department's suggestion. George Nelson, city solicitor, has spoken out about the unconstitutional aspects of the law. He stated that it is not a lawsuit that would win if it went to court. The two business interactions with the city have different requirements. If a business receives a contract worth at least $300,000 or financial support city assistance of at least $5 million, then those companies are to follow the 51% new hire law. If a company doesn't hire at least 51% of its workforce from Baltimore local citizens, they will be fined $500, which would not be too bad, but then the company will also be barred from receiving any other city contracts for a year. The consequences could cost millions in the long run if the company can no longer bid for the government or city contracts. For the time being, while the bill is being edited to its final version, the bill will include a 6-month time period for companies who already have bids to adjust. After reading through articles regarding the bill, it became clear that there was a difference between Baltimore area or county and Baltimore City. Often the unemployment rates were reported for that area rather than the city of Baltimore. But the bill seems to be proposed as a city law rather than a county-wide one. The area inside the black circle is Baltimore County. The chart shows that as a county, unemployment is in the 7.1 to 8% range. Yet as a city, Baltimore faces greater unemployment than the highest ranges listed. As a city, Baltimore is number 15 out of 50 largest cities in the country for unemployment. There are also various groups supporting and pushing for the bill to officially pass. Such groups include the Job Opportunities Task Force, Associated Black Charities, and the Baltimore Jewish Council. They feel that this law will bolster city residential employment. With support of different groups like this, it can be hard to say no to the residents of Baltimore. Businesses are concerned about the passage of the new law for many reasons. Baltimore City Council needs to make sure their plans are legal. Otherwise, there's no help at all, just good intentions. Even though the Baltimore City Council's ultimate goal is to connect qualified local job seekers with local employers looking to fill job openings, this law may go against some of the laws prohibiting job discrimination. Also, several businesses and the law department have already warned that the new legislation violates the Constitution's Privileges and Immunities Clause, which prevents states from discriminating against the citizens of other states. Most contractors looking to hire employees are now wondering if they are protected in hiring under these laws from discrimination claims. These days, the job market is very competitive, and businesses are always looking to hire for the most competent and talented workforce in order to attain a competitive advantage. This law will restrict the number of global applicants, and the pool of candidates will be considerably smaller than the competition. As a result, business plans and project plans will be affected negatively. This bill will impose requirements for detailed monthly reports to city employment development administrators that would prove burdensome for both the employers and administrators. Skilled workers are critical to efficient completion of a job. Putting hiring restrictions on companies working with Baltimore will discourage companies to bid on these projects. Contractors craft their bids based on their employees' efficiency, which is hard to determine if they don't have full control of their hiring. To reiterate, if a business decides to ignore this law, penalties will be imposed. The penalty for failing to ensure a workforce of primarily local residents could be anywhere from a fine $500 to a year-long ban on additional city funds. A contractor who intentionally failed to meet the local hiring requirements would be barred from city work for 1 year and guilty of a misdemeanor. Going more into depth on the constitutional aspect of the legality of law, the Privileges and Immunities Clause is a provision covered under Article 4 of the U.S. Constitution. As previously mentioned, the goal of this clause is to prevent states from discriminating against people who are not state citizens or from favoring its own citizens over citizens of another state. One way in which this clause has been interpreted was by creating a right to travel between states while enjoying the same privileges and immunities as that state's citizens. Specifically, the Privileges and Immunities Clause states that the citizens of each state shall be entitled to all privileges and immunities of citizens in the several states. The focus of this clause is the fundamental rights of individual citizens and governs the state's ability to discriminate against out-of-state citizens. This clause has been defined to extend only to fundamental rights and not to all commercial activity. In the context of this article, it appears we are dealing with two sets of laws depending on the violation. If the City of Baltimore applies this regulation to prevent Maryland residents who do not live in Baltimore from working in Baltimore, then this would be a state law issue and would exclude the Privileges and Immunities Clause, which is an article of the Constitution and deals with violations between states, not within states. This was seen in the Slaughterhouse case, number 83, where only one meat company was allowed exclusive rights to slaughter livestock in New Orleans. 3 other Louisiana meat companies filed suit claiming this violates the Privileges and Immunities Clause. Neither the state nor the Supreme Court found in favor of this suit, as it only involved Louisiana state citizens and no out-of-state citizen rights were violated. Now, in a second scenario, if Baltimore uses this law to prevent out-of-state workers from working in Baltimore, we can see from the article that similar laws had been overturned based on the Privileges and Immunities Clause. For example, this happened in Worcester, Massachusetts, and Jersey City, New Jersey. Other cases where the Privileges and Immunities Clause was found to be in violation was in Hicklin versus Oberbeck, 1978, where the court struck down the Alaska Hire Law. That preferred Alaskan citizens over non-Alaskan residents for the oil industry. This clause was also found to be in violation in the Supreme Court of New Hampshire versus Piper in 1985, where a law limited admission to use state bars. It limited admission to the state bar to New Hampshire residents. Baltimore's situation is somewhat unique because it only applies to contracts or projects that utilize city funds, which equate to Maryland taxpayers' dollars. Another way to look at this issue is to look at state or city-funded universities that are consistently and routinely allowed to charge more tuition to out-of-state students versus in-state students based on the fact that in-state tax dollars are used to subsidize the university. This is a source of thousands of precedents for differentiating between in- and out-of-state citizens based on state taxpayer dollar involvement. Here's a slide showing the steady rise of unemployment in Baltimore from 2006 to 2012. Here's another slide showing a net increase of 0.3% from June of 2012 to June of 2013 in Baltimore, which went from 10.9 to 11.2. So the unemployment is rising, and it kind of establishes why they're looking into ways to kind of curb this rise in unemployment. There are some exemptions to this. One of them is if there's an absence of available qualified skilled workers despite a good faith effort to hire city residents, and also businesses which may be located in Baltimore but perform contracted work outside of Baltimore. Some of the rationale behind the local hiring law in Baltimore is to create new job opportunities, reduce city unemployment, promote local business development, invest taxpayer dollars into local economy, improve community morale and support, reduce negative impact of commuting, environment, family time away, direct costs, and opportunity costs. And these are just a few. Having a look at some of the other city local hiring laws that other cities have used. One of them was Boston in 1985, and they had a requirement of 50% Boston residents. And then you have San Francisco in 2011, and they had basically in 2011 20% San Francisco residents, and by 2017 an increase to 50% San Francisco residents. Now to look at some of the limitations of the Baltimore local hiring law. Obviously it restricts opportunities for non-Baltimore residents. Legally, potentially violates the Privileges and Immunities Clause. New compliance and liability coverage costs, leading to increased prices. Competition decreases could lead to higher wages and higher price. Businesses elect not to submit bids. That could be one definitely a negative alternative. Also, a potential decrease in business development and a potential decrease in technical and organizational skill for businesses receiving contracts. Finally, some of the alternatives to the Baltimore local hiring law could be something along the lines of a job linkage program, where they make an extra effort to link up Baltimore residents with incoming jobs. Training programs to help Baltimore residents be more qualified for the contracts that are coming in, and new contracts that require a minimum percentage of new hires are chosen from a pool of unemployed applicants. That might be a way to bypass the legislative, the legal aspects. Also, there could be incentive measures to hire unemployed candidates, and incentive measures for workers' relocation to Baltimore, to name a few. And this concludes our presentation on local hires in Baltimore. I hope you've enjoyed it, and thank you very much for your time. Bye-bye.